Good evening. This is the Talking Devils Tactics podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by Mike Pieri and Tony Bryson. How are you doing, guys? Mike, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Wayne. I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I'm all right. Do you know what? This isn't a podcast. We talk about tactics on the podcast, but it's funny because I was talking to someone else yesterday, a good friend, and we had that like "How are you?" kind of thing. You know, at the moment, he's "How are you?" No, checking like "How are you?" And we were talking about something else. We were actually catching up about something else entirely. Ended up talking for 20 minutes about recent events. Like the passing of Ricky Hatton, the Matt Beard, the women's football manager recently. Both alleged suicides. Should say, shouldn't say it's been confirmed in the public eye. I think Matt Beard's family have confirmed that on social network, but it hasn't been put forward by Ricky's family in such an overt way. But obviously, with events this year in other areas of my life, it's been so such a strange thing. So yeah, I'm not using this platform to talk about any of that. Well, my point is that it's good to ask how people are. It's good to actually check in and say, how are you doing? And if you're watching or listening back to this, feel free to reach out to any of us if you're struggling and you need a chat. Anyway, public service announcement over and done with. I'm good, Mike. Thank you for asking. How are you doing,
No
Tony? Are you
problem.
good?
I'm all right, lads. Just on that note, we've had my mum's been struggling with mental health for a while. Anybody who's watched stuff on my Twitter will know the backstory with my mum, and she's really been struggling. It's been having a big toll on me, so I've been looking forward to this, talking about this all day. And you can normally tell if I'm having a tough time mentally because I'll be at more and more football games. That's how I'll be at football games because that's a safe space. That's the 90 minutes of switching it off and just focus on what's in front of your face, which I know a lot of people feel the same about football. So, I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm getting there. And Saturday, despite the monsoon, rain, and the fact I never took a jacket, and then I went to Moor Lane to watch Salford for the very first time,
Yeah.
and then Old Trafford and got thoroughly soaked. It was nice to come away from Old Trafford with the team having won,
Yeah.
and that's why all good, mate.
Yeah. Good. Good to hear that. Yeah. This is a place, like since the summer, we really ramped up the podcast schedule, made a decision to add a few more in. And like you said, Tony, part of my escape, I didn't realize how much I really like. In fact, I really didn't realize how much I loved talking about football or like talking to other people about football in this kind of way. Probably 2021 after COVID, and we started going back to football afterwards and seeing friends. It'd been a long time, and it was like, God, do you know what? I really miss this. So the decision that we took to add more podcasts and bringing yourself to talk is just really good. I really enjoy this podcast this week, every week, but this night every week is really enjoyable for me. And more so, like I said, when we win. It was a funny rainy game. The only one I can remember being as bad as that was the Arsenal game a couple of seasons ago. But that was only like it was a 10-minute monsoon at the end. And then everyone will have seen the pictures outside of there were people like doing I don't know what
Ah,
they call it.
yes.
They were doing the splashes in the puddles outside because it was like you couldn't bother walking in it. So people were sort of crammed in underneath the tunnel, the Munich tunnel, or the stands around the other stands. I was in the Munich tunnel, and it got so crowded there that people had to come out, and so they were doing the sort of like forward splashes in the puddle. They knew they'd be drenched anyway. I mean, I wouldn't do that because there's all kinds of dirt and stuff in that. But some people were doing it, and it rose a few laughs. It wasn't that bad on Saturday because as bad as it did rain, and it was the worst rain I've ever seen throughout a full game, a sustained 90 minutes at Old Trafford. The tunnels were still quite dry, oddly enough, when you walked out of the ground. It's like, how did they manage to keep the tunnels bone dry? And they were, at least the Munich tunnel. Again, that's my experience of that. Someone might say the North Stand was drenched, there were puddles everywhere. Yeah, United won 2-1. Let's talk about the tactics then. Waffled on a long time about nothing in particular, but let's talk about the tactics. Manchester United 2, Chelsea 1. The first thing is that Ruben Amorim needed a win. And I always think there are two sides to this podcast where that we talk about it. We talk about we talk about the tactics, we talk about the manager's intentions, and how he approached that with the system that he has. But then we always talk about the sort of theological side of it, of like, what was he trying to achieve? What's the mentality there? Is that a good long-term fit for what he's trying to do? And I think this was a game where you can evaluate both sides of it, really, because you've got on the one hand that we win the game, and you can't really complain with winning the game. Like you said, Tony, come out of it, you feeling a bit more positive. But the other side of it, you come out thinking, well, if you're looking at this as like a long-term investment, there's still no conclusions really, because it was such a weird, farcical game. There's some things to draw from it. You go like, okay, there were some good things in there, or some things to know. But you look at it, you still think less about shape, more about intent. And the first point we're going to bring up is about the intent. Amorim praised afterwards the urge and the start, and I thought, well, when I first read those comments back, I thought, you've been a little bit optimistic there, because I can't remember us being that aggressive, but we were really. I watched it back and I thought, no, we were quite at it from the off. The conditions helped with that, and the setup for the goal. The first chance, which wasn't a goal, but it determined the complete pattern of the game, was part of strategy. It's a long pass. Sesko flicks it on, gets behind the defense, and Mbeumo going. Basically, the system that we tried to deploy against City, but it works this time. The keeper comes rushing out. There's no complaints about the decision. And really, in terms of how we set up, that's all I can conclude from that, because afterwards there's too many changes to Chelsea, and we'll talk about what United did actively after that. But in terms of that urgent start, the way that Amorim talked about it afterwards, it definitely influenced the game, Tony. But it wasn't a case of saying, well, Amorim's tactics trumped that, because it was just the conditions helped. A mad rush of blood to the head from the goalkeeper, and that determined the entire game. Am I being a little bit harsh? Do you think that Amorim deserves a little bit credit?
Oh, God, just heard me during the game when my pal Graham for Dundee was sat next to me. And Ruben Amorim got called for everything on Saturday, because all the guys round about me, because it's a supporters club, it tends to be a lot of the guys for the supporters club all sat in the same sections.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Scottish guys, a lot of Scottish voices. As soon as Casemiro got booked, were saying, take him off. He is unable to control himself, and that's what panned out. I think for where I was at, it looked a harsh second booking, but ultimately a player of his experience shouldn't get taken off like that. But to back to the kind of systems tactics type thing, I kind of get what Ruben Amorim's saying about starting quick, but the first attack, really, the goalkeeper gets sent off. So does that happen because it's really just a long ball over the top, innit? I mean, and the goalkeeper rush of blood to the head, rushes out his goal, misses the ball, fouls Mbeumo, and that's it. Murder she wrote for him. But no, I thought I was really disappointed with Amorim, because what happened, if you watch Chelsea's shape, when they go to 10, they go to a back 5 and a 3 and a 1. But as soon as we go to a 10, they're back into a 4. And there's that adaptability, and there's a wee bit of pragmatism, and there's a wee bit of a change in managing the game, and all the things you would expect from a top-level football coach. No for us, really. We stick to the back 5, even when there's a really obvious back 4 in front of you in the second half, where you just take... who's playing on the left side again? You take Mazraoui out, and you just bump Shaw along one, and you play with the 4 that you had... when you bring Dallo on, that's a really simple, easy shift to make. And ultimately, for me, when Chelsea are half a step away from drawing that game, if he's onside, they've scored 2 goals, and we don't defend set pieces properly. I was shouting at Luke Shaw, as I'm known to do, because he changes men before the goal, and the lead up to the goal. You watch him; he's picking up one, and he changes to somebody else as the ball is being crossed. That's absolute chaos and madness to me, because Chelsea had 5 at the back post in that set play, and any one of them could have scored. So no, I actually came out of it probably a wee bit harsher than you, Wayne. towards the manager, because I thought if you're ever going to be adaptable, if you're going to show a bit, you sub Casemiro as soon as he gets booked and you maintain your advantage.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that because he's rigid to this 5 at the back. We played with a 5-3-1, 5-2-2 at times. You want to bump. These are all just numbers, really, because as soon as the ball moves to the right back area, it shifts over and it changes. And it moves out of the middle, it changes, moves over to the side, it changes. But fundamentally, he stuck to 3 centre-backs, he's 2 wing-backs, played with a 3 and played with a 1 that was Mbuemo and Cunha towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
But
I will talk about the... First of all, I'm going to come on to Chelsea going down to 10 and the in-game management and then the half-time sub. I'll come on to them in a minute. But I want to get your thoughts on how we started, Mike, because, I mean, one of the things was... everyone was disappointed with the starting lineup. They looked at, I mean, it was obvious, really, like from what Amorim said before. Even though Mainu had been the standout player and in the derby for United, we talked about this on the podcast, basically saying he's not likely to play Mainu. He's not likely to bring him back because of the fact he's already gone big on saying it's Mainu or Fernandes. So it's going to be Casemiro or Ugarte. Thank God it was Casemiro from the start. It was a system that said, you know, I'm not taking any chances here. You know what I mean? Ahmad starting instead of Cunha. So do you feel like when you've won a game of football, the comments that he came out with afterwards were saying, I was glad that of the urgent start. That's very much a wise after the... For me, it struck me as wise after the event. He's gone, okay, well, I need to get hold of some kind of credit from this game here because we've won the game. It's been chaotic. Anyone watching that, because it was an entertaining game of football. There was loads of incidents, but as Tony said there, it's difficult to sort of like say all this was products of design by Amorim. So afterwards, because he was under pressure, is that what you've got from that? I mean, I'm not putting words into your mouth there. That's just what struck me afterwards. I think like you look at it and think he's trying to be a little bit wise after the event and say, well, we've scored a goal before all the chaos. We haven't scored a goal. We've had the defining moment in the game of all the chaos. So I want to claim that I've instigated that.
I would have wanted him to go a little bit further and say, well, everyone talks to talks at us and about the way we're playing and the situation, and the situational football and the tactics. And I just want him to come out and say, well, look how we eventually created that situation. It was a long ball. Our centre forwards flicked it on, and it was great movement. It wasn't anything to do with a back three or De Ligt moving on to moving into the midfield or moving the ball or playing it back or passing. It was direct, so we can play that way. So I think he missed a trick there. I think he missed a trick in coming out with something like that to deflect from, I guess, the criticism he's had since he's been there. And he goes, look, we can play differently. And we did. And look what happened. And we won the game. Thank you very much. So I think he did miss a trick there.
Yeah. It's funny because the day after City they start playing a little bit of long ball and Guardiola's revolutionised football again. Just absolute madness. It's crazy how that happens, but, when you've got it, I suppose. By the way, I'm not saying we revolutionised football. I'm just saying it's the absurdity of modern media coverage. So, Mike, I'll come to you first with this then. So, obviously, Chelsea go down to 10 men. They make 2 subs immediately, withdrawing 2 attackers within 20 minutes. Although United have taken the lead by then, they're forced to take off Cole Palmer. Like Tony said, Chelsea have moved their shape around. They've gone really conservative, fearing a battering, basically. That's how they set up. They feared something that wasn't coming from United. United had chances. There was a moment, the atmosphere there was like, kill them off, especially when 2 goals up. It's like, come on, the game's there for the take. There was a vibrancy around Old Trafford, kind of like go for the kill. How many times have we been in this position and been killed? We're being absolutely tore apart, like 7-0, 5-0. We've had so many of those. Like, for once, inflict that on someone else, and he just wasn't coming. And it wasn't coming because he just refused to just bump the extra player up the pitch. He didn't need 5 defenders. He could have took one of those out, like Tony was saying. Have Shaw wide. You don't need to. There's no heavy reliance on him overlapping because you've got so much in attack there. Allow those players to express themselves like further up the pitch. You've got the time and space to do it. Perhaps if you do that, then you're not going to be so worried so much about Casemiro being caught out the way that he was. I just felt like you've still got the handbrake on here, even though you've got the opportunity to sort of like really, really not even go for the kill, but control the game better, even because you've got the numbers there. You can create the overloads in areas that you couldn't before. Like Tony was saying, Maresca actually reacts really well to us going down to 10 men. But we didn't do that when the game was there to kill off. Were you disappointed by that? Why, when they've gone down to 10 men, especially when they've made the subs, you're thinking, again, you've missed a trick here. You could have really pressed on that advantage.
Yeah, I agree. And Tony makes a great point about taking off someone like Mazraoui and playing a 4 at the back because you could just move Luke Shaw to the left. I mean, what I saw at that point was that I noticed that the way that United were pressing against Chelsea, noticed how De Ligt got quite tight on Santos, Shaw closing down Enzo, and that gave Chelsea problems in addition to the fact that they were a man down. And I'm just thinking, rather than having a defender doing that in De Ligt or Shaw closing down from a deeper position, why couldn't that be an extra midfielder? And if it was Mainu closing down, getting the ball, you know that he's going to be better with his feet, better at passing, better at penetrating than either De Ligt or Shaw. So I don't know whether there's a... And Tony, you can make it maybe shed some light on this with coaches who are so wedded to their philosophy, so wedded to the way they play that this is an opportunity for them to have more of an opportunity to do what I'm asking them to do. So De Ligt had more of an opportunity to go into midfield. Shaw had more of an opportunity to go into midfield, because then what they actually did was that with both wide centre halves, and they need to be dynamic, don't they, for this system to work. It did add an extra midfielder into an extra player into the midfield. But why not just put a midfielder in there and just leave your 2 centre halves behind you? It just seemed counterintuitive. I can see why he was doing it, but it didn't need to be the case. Bring another midfielder off, take a defender off, then you've got that extra person in midfield. So it was confusing and very frustrating, very frustrating. And dare I say, if you had that extra midfielder in there, would Casemiro have been in that position to make the challenge that he felt he had to make?
No, yeah.
Well, you're bang on, Mike. You really are. With that, I noticed that as well. De Ligt was starting to step into the midfield a wee bit more, and I was actually thinking, here we go. Maybe this is because there's very little in modern football is by chance. It's normally by design. So Ruben Amorim, you would expect, would have a plan for what he's going to do if the opposition end up with 10 men. And unfortunately for us, in my opinion, I've got a 5-month-old kitten who is just intent on causing absolute chaos here, breaking the blinds and jumping in the fish tank. That's why I keep looking over. Because every time I talk, she's there. Anyway, what you tend to find with philosophy, coaches that are wedded to a specific system of play rather than philosophies and things that they want to see happening, is that they'll no change the shape. They will do things like that where they'll bump one up, but I'm not taking a centre back off. Are you kidding me? That's I defend with 3 across the zone like a 4. That's just what he does. And ultimately, that is why I've come away for the first, not the first, but the first big one in a while. Actually more frustrated with Amorim just because of how I just don't see. I turned to my mate Graham and I went, he's not going to work here. This is not going to work for him. This is too big a club to be stuck behind one guy's ideology, because there is arguably the current best manager in the world, who we were talking last week about taking his inspiration from great Ajax sides and Rinus Michel's, who now appears to be taking his inspiration for Tony Pulis and Steve Bruce. So I mean, that's adaptability right there. And I don't think you can be the Manchester United manager and be this wedded to playing with what can easily be created into a back five by playing two high wingers against them.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Van Gaal was the same, wasn't he? Just wouldn't move away from that philosophy. So let's move on to the key talking point that was at half time, which I don't know about where you were sat, Tony, but definitely got a few groans from where we were. Šeško brought off at half time for Ugarte. Just a tonal shift, which really indicates everything I'm talking about. And I'm an optimist, right? I don't like talking about after a win being so critical the way that we are, but I think that this isn't, it's half tactic, half philosophical, where you're looking at it and saying, all right, this is the theory in which he's going for, and it just didn't seem to sit right because United were 2-0 up still. All right, they were down to 10 men, but still a shape in there. You're still controlling the game. What you're really doing at that point is Chelsea are going to go hell for leather, so exploit them on the counter. What you've ended up doing is bringing off a tool of the counter and also kind of going against what you're trying to do anyway, because again, there's no system in a two-man midfield that Ugarte makes sense for. The only way he makes sense in this is he's more pragmatic than Kobbie Mainoo. That's the only way, but he doesn't make sense in a two-man midfield because he doesn't work in a two-man midfield. He's not good enough on the ball to recycle possession in the way that he wants to. I mean, again, a striker who really needs a goal, a team which still needs an outlet on the pitch at the time, a manager who really needs a win. And I think if you think about those three things at half time, it probably shows the pressure on the manager because he's kind of gone, all right, I need the win here. This is the best way to get through the next 45 minutes, no matter what happens. And I am critical of that. I'm being critical of it now, but I can kind of understand it considering the criticism, and kind of probably agree ultimately that is what all that matters. And if you look at the conditions were really bad. It just about got us over the line. I'm not praising him and saying that decision won us the game. I think another decision would have made it more handsome, but I can understand the pragmatism in the moment, even if at the time I was groaning like everyone else. Tony, how do you view the substitution at half time and how it changed the way that the second half was shaped?
I was standing in the gents' toilet trying to dry my jumper at half time. So I missed that was happening. And when I came out, I was like, where's Šeško? And Graham's like, oh, he must have taken him off. And I was like, is that Ugarte? I thought, no way. And I asked the guy beside me, and he went, yeah, he subbed off Šeško for Ugarte. And my groan was a wee bit of a delayed one, but I was certainly groaning the same as everybody else in the stadium must have been, or for what I've heard. Just to pick up on the point you make there, Wayne, about the manager trying to relieve pressure. If anything, I think he's put himself under more pressure by how he managed that game. Because I think a lot of people kind of thought, all right, so it is this. This is the way it's going to be no matter what. Like,
yeah,
if he was going to be pragmatic and he was going to switch it up and he was going to be adaptable, Chelsea going to 10 men and being 1-0 up, in fact, being 2-0 up, was the time to do it. And like you say, Wayne, I was baying for blood at 2-0. I thought, right, this is a chance to go and absolutely scalp Chelsea here and go and put a marker down and make teams fear you. Yeah. I don't think if you're a coach for another team, you've come away from that thinking, oof, Chelsea nearly nicked that there.
Yeah. Lee's saying here, can Park put it down to a side that lacks confidence and holding out for 2-0, 10v10, but taking off not just Šeško, but Mbeumo and Ahmad, removed all the speed from the counter-attack and got the team stuck in their own half in the second half, which is a good point, Mike. And really, I mean, it was so flat that second half, which you might say, like we were saying earlier, might be by design, might have been the best case scenario for Amorim, considering Casemiro was sent off. There's only that Bruno chance, really, that I can remember, where he's knackered at the end and pulls off an effort. Nothing really to write home about in the second half, apart from switching off completely. the only thing that they've been asked to do in the second half is concentrate on defending, and they switch off. Like Tony says, Luke Shaw goes missing. They allow the best crosser on the pitch a free cross, which is just ludicrous. You're getting wound up by it now as well. But yeah, what did you make of the reaction in the second half?
Just when you just talk about the goal, if you remember, I put it in our group chat. I did a couple of screenshots where, again, it's a short corner, and we're not set up to defend a short corner. And as Tony said a couple of weeks back, that's kid stuff. Yeah. You know, and then as you said, Reece James, quality on the ball. He's got beautiful right foot. And how long does it take the defenders to get into the right shape? It's too late by then. Once it's played out, it's too late. And that just killed me. That frustrated me. And it happened. It happened against Grimsby as well, didn't it? We talked about how it happened against Grimsby. It's a short corner. Set yourself up properly. They've got a man over. Defend it. So that really frustrated me. But to answer your question, once it goes down to 10v10, you know, it's essentially, you know, you obviously got the same number of players on each side. Okay, how you set up. And it's what we said about it a couple of weeks ago when we said how's he going to set up against Caicedo and Enzo, two really good central midfielders. I guess that's why I wanted to bring Ugarte on. But why did it have to be for the centre forward? As Tony said, that's your person up top. That's a person who can relieve the pressure, play the ball into his feet. And I just felt that we just invited that pressure, invited the press, invited Chelsea to create situations. And ultimately, they scored and they very nearly got the equaliser.
Well,
yeah, this team doesn't do enough to stop crosses week to week, very poor defending the box. What did you make of Chelsea's goal, Tony?
So the really galling thing for me is that I can't remember, was it they had a corner directly before that they'd done the same thing. Either they were made to retake it or it was just another corner. I can't remember what happened, but I remember thinking after the goal, they've just shown you that. They showed you what they were going to do, and then they done it again. It's like Chelsea could taunt us that we can score for set pieces whenever we want because we know that you are a shambles. And that, on a coach's side, Mike will be the same as me. Dead ball situations, criminal. Absolutely criminal to not set up properly. And if you've got four, want to go and attack the ball at the back post, you can be zonal, but you need to have four people that are picking up those four people when they come into your zone. So it was really galling for me, and I was actually pretty angry about the Chelsea goal, just because I think it's such an easy thing to fix. And not for the first time, I think, what are these guys doing all week? Like, what are they working on? Because Chelsea do that one a lot, back cross, because they've got such really good crossers of the ball throughout their team. Another thing for me that made me really annoyed was, see, after Casemiro got sent off, we played 10 minutes of the second half where we were playing with one centre mid. Like we actually were a 5-1-3 for that 5-10 minutes. Again, that's not a coach managing the game. That's a coach wedded, no matter what, no matter the danger, to this is the shape I'm going to play. And I'll come back to it again. The club is far too big to be stuck to one guy's idea. Because there's been hundreds of guys throughout the whole history of the club that have contributed to what this club is and what this club's idea is. And I'm sorry, one wee guy for Portugal, not even the best Portuguese coach in the last 25 years could come to this club and tell us of a way to play. So I'm not having a young Portuguese coach come and say, this is the way it's going to be no matter what, and be doing absolutely mad things during the game, like having 10 minutes where you've got one midfielder playing against Enzo and Caicedo, which I mean, you look at them as well. God, I would honestly, there's no many things I wouldn't do to have those two be our two midfielders in this system, because they're absolutely perfect for it. Yeah, they're perfect for it. Their wing backs are perfect for it as well. I can't. Was it you guys that shared the thing where somebody said Amorim's probably ended up at with the wrong squad? He's ended up at Manchester United when that Chelsea squad has almost been built for the way he wants teams to play.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't hear, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
a very frustrating afternoon, which is mad because it's probably our biggest win against a close opponent. Well, it certainly is this season anyway, for a wee while. So mad.
No, it is. I mean, I think the other thing is like when you're in those circumstances, it's the circumstances that bring out the manager, really. I mean, when we played Lyon last season, he was forced to gamble, but his gamble was still Maguire up top, and it worked. It was still within the confines of the system that he had. But like that last 5 minutes, there was no Maguire's playing in defence, and then he's going to be an attacking option. It was literally that was his job. Was basically, I'm not going to say his job was on the line. That might be a bit of a stretch, but the season was on the line. So when it really, really came down to it, and it wasn't going to work, something changed very, very quickly. Like in the final, the Europa League final, when it really, really came down to it in the last 5 minutes, he brings on Kobbie Mainoo long after he should have brought him on. But the worrying signs of a manager for me is starting so steadfast in what you believe in, but when it really matters, you go retrograded. Like brings Garnacho on at half time, even though he'd said that he's already after the game. He's like, you can find a new club, so he's that far against having him, but needed him when he called upon. Like when it really mattered, Garnacho was the one that he came for. My point is that in the system on Saturday, not so much in reaction to the red card, 50% red card, but 50% the fact that Chelsea were forced to bring off 3 attacking plays by 20 minutes. That game is there to be killed off because they're not offering any threat in the game. So as long as you don't do any silly things like give away set pieces, you've got the opportunity then to absolutely run riot, like at least 3 or 4-0, which would be very, very handsome. And then you look at a manager's proclivity to gamble. Even Ten Hag had that. You look at the famous Liverpool game when Anthony ends up at left back, even though he's arguing about it. Things are happening on the football pitch that shouldn't normally happen. But that's fine because it's United and you've got that propensity to gamble there and the stadium reacts to it. They also react when you don't do it. So there was a little bit of frustration there. You mentioned about what they're doing all week, but you also said at the start with Luke Shaw sort of picking up his own man. And I feel that that's probably a big problem with United is that over that last 10 years, players sort of take decisions at critical moments into their own heads when they're not good enough to do it. They just go like, all right, this is what I'm going to do instead. I remember a key moment in the Ferguson era where we got battered. No, not got battered. It was the first game against Barcelona in the 94-95 season. Paul Parker talks about it on the Monday pod. He and Pallister was sent out to mark Romario, but Parker was the man marker for Romario. That's why he was playing in the game. He was specifically playing to man mark Romario. So Ferguson's told him, stick with him all the time. Anyway, they get a corner, and Pallister says to Parker, don't worry, I've got him. So Parker just switches off, but he allows Pallister to take him. Romario makes a run and scores or sets up a goal. And Ferguson goes absolutely ballistic at Parker for losing his man. Even like Parker's got no comeback to that, because he's gone against what the manager told him to do. Just an interesting point there, which you made very well earlier on with Luke Shaw. That was that, yeah. Talked for 33 minutes. Easy to forget that we won the game, but that's what we are here to do: pick the bones out of it and sort of like say, no, this is why we didn't think worked. Look, if he'd have gone more adventurous, or if we'd have won the game in more convincing fashion, or maybe if we'd have won it without conceding a goal, we would have been sat here saying, all right, well, we got through what we got through, but the pragmatism worked in the second half and understood the decisions they made. The fact is that at the end, Bayandia flaps at one, which is a conversation for another day, thankfully. He avoids getting picked on for 2 games in a row, considering the wealth of conversation that we've got elsewhere, really. So, yeah, the conversation about the goalkeeper probably will get picked up on next week's pod, knowing the way that United season works. Let's talk about the game of the weekend. Brentford Now, still finding their feet after the departure of Thomas Frank. Keith Andrews there as manager. One of my favourite subplots of the season is Keith Andrews and Martin O'Neill having swipes at each other. It was the argument I didn't know that I needed. I'm not really sure I do need it, to be honest, but I keep seeing Martin O'Neill criticising him. I'm like, this is low level, but it's kind of like the low level kind of thing that I'm there for, considering the drama that's around United. It's kind of like a little escape. It's like, oh, O'Neill's had another pop at Keith Andrews, has he? Oh, that's good. But yeah, like you said, Tony, we were doing some research before, very brief research on what to expect from Brentford. But they've tried different things under Keith Andrews. It tells you a couple of things, that he's a manager finding his feet at a new club, and also a team trying to find their way. Their big value in the promotion, or since before promotion, really, since they've been on their upturn, has been their consistency and the model of consistency that they've got. That's everything that's brilliant about Brentford, especially in the turbulent Premier League era where it's been really sort of up and down. So that's not what we're seeing from Brentford this season, and that's probably United's best chance of a result, right? I don't know if I'm being a little bit optimistic, but I look at Brentford, I've looked at the batterings we've had off them, and I think they've been fairly predictable batterings, which you wouldn't think, to say, oh, Brentford are going to batter United this time around, but I certainly thought it last season, and they did. Even though the game ended 4-3, that was a definite 4-1 game in terms of golfing class between the sides. This time round, it's not Thomas Frank, it's Keith Edwards and his new way of playing. We're not sure. Are Brentford sure?
Not for me. I think Keith Andrews looks like a coach trying to find the best pieces, or the best way to put the pieces of the puzzle together. I think the bigger thing for me is who's not at Brentford anymore. Obviously, we've got one of their best players playing for us, but they've also lost Wissa. They've lost their manager. There's a couple other names that have just slipped my mind who've left.
Arsenal lad who went to Arsenal, midfielder.
No
good.
Yeah.
So this is essentially what you look at as Brentford now as almost like a newly promoted team again, because they're a team in total transition, trying to kind of search where they're at. And I think by most bookies odds, Brentford are either third in the bottom three or fourth or fifth bottom, which of course, with me having just said all that, they'll probably beat us at the weekend. But no, I think this is a game. Obviously, Manchester United have had a lot of scalpings off a good old-fashioned Scottish word, that a scalping, which is basically just getting turned over and getting a sore one off of them. I think we've had a lot of that off of Thomas Frank teams, and it does not bode well for when we play Thomas Frank teams later on in the season. But no, Brentford don't look like a team sure of what they're at. Under Thomas Frank, it was 4-2-3-1. With loads of pace in the team and loads of power in the team, and really mobile and agile and tough to play against. And with Keith Andrews, there's been a wee bit of fight. There's mostly 5-3-2, a wee bit of 4-2-3-1, a couple of 4-4-2s. So it just looks like a team kind of searching to find its feet, as you would expect a newly promoted team to do.
Yeah, it is a strange one to see him not, you see managers these days like Ruben Amorim go in with a shape and say this is the way that it's going to be. Maybe that's to his credit as well, but it also lends to the idea that they'll look to exploit United's weaknesses. So maybe they'll pack the midfield where United will be expecting to play Ugarte alongside Fernandes again, which is is what it is there. Lee Morgan said it must win for United. The only way the narrative can change it is by the team winning football matches. Yeah, that's right. And it's one of the points we made probably when we started doing this version of this podcast, the Tactics Show, is that winning games kills all kind of criticism, every criticism, because if you win games at the end of the day, and we're just here to commentate on how that victory went and what the manager did right, really. So that's how they prove us wrong. Brentford are from your neck of the woods, Mike, so you will know a little bit more about them, like, on a day-to-day basis, the way that they, this is the ultimate community club. In a billionaire's era, there's still a community club. Paul was talking about this on the Monday morning podcast. London, with its multicultural reaches, they have clubs who have worldwide fan bases, and then you have clubs who have really local fan bases, and Brentford are one of those. Yeah, they might have a few stragglers now who are fans of the Premier League era, but it's a very localized club. You're not going to have South Londoners traveling up. They'll be down at Palace. Do you know what I mean? There's a Palace. These are the classic regional clubs within the capital. Brentford are, and that's to Brentford's credit. That's the thing that they've got there in their favour. That's a weapon that they've got that is utilised, and rightly so. And that's probably in amidst the inconsistency that they've got for the first time in half a decade or so, maybe even a decade. For the first time, they've got that little bit of inconsistency. That's the kind of thing they'll be counting on.
Yeah, I went to the old stadium, the previous stadium, and I went with a former colleague of mine who's actually a United fan, but he just didn't want to go up to Manchester anymore, and he lives very locally. We walked to the stadium, went to his house, we walked to the stadium, and we sat there amongst all his friends, all season ticket holders of Brentford. I went to see Chrissy Mepham, who's a former student of mine who played for Brentford. And who's this? And this is Mike. He's not a Brentford fan. He's a United fan. I was just embraced. We just had a good chat. It was a lovely atmosphere. And I explained to them why I was there, and they just wanted to know more about one of their players. You wouldn't get that at a lot of other clubs, it was really nice. So that homely, local feel, absolutely right. But I look at Brentford at the minute, and central mid. They've got Jordan Henderson playing in central midfield. Come on, I think even Ugarte may have a good game on Saturday.
I think you might be surprised because Paul has done a couple of Brentford games, Paul Parker, and he was saying that Jordan's actually playing quite well there. So in amidst what they're doing, are you expecting any severe changes from Amorim, Mike? I mean, are you expecting a goalkeeper change?
I mean, if he is gonna blood the youngster, the young goalkeeper Lemons, it's got to be in these next two games. You've got Brentford and Sunderland. They're games that on paper you think they're very winnable. Brentford not playing very well. Yes, it's away. And then you've got Sunderland at home. Surely if he's going to play him, he's going to play him in those two games. He can't wait then. I think, is it Liverpool next? He might have Liverpool after that. He's either going to play him now or he's not going to play him at all. And Bayern is going to play for the rest of the season. He's his number one. So I'm hoping he plays Lemons. I hope he plays him. Obviously, we say it every week, but Casemiro is suspended. Surely it's time for Mainu to start. It's got to be. If not, then I think the writing's on the wall for the lad, and it might be a January loan exit for him. So those are the two that I think are obvious for me. He's got to play the new keeper, and he's got to give Mainu a chance in midfield with Bruno.
Yeah, Dallow's going to be back in contention. He's been training this week. And also the other thing is going to be, but Ahmad, you're probably likely to see him drop out of contention, but he'll go on the bench because Cunha will be back in the team. I'm going to be honest, Tony, the one thing, screaming for Kobe to come on, almost didn't want Cunha to come on because I thought the conditions on Saturday, you don't want to see dodgy hamstrings going around on that, or a newly recovered hamstring on that. Fair play, it held up and he was all right. But I mean, those are the ones, aren't they? I mean, and it does indicate now. I mean, first of all, the Lomans situation is a big call. It's been made into a big call. This is already a rumble that he was the board's choice and not the manager's choice. And the longer that the manager sticks with the goalkeeper that's in there, the longer that weight gets the theory grabs weight, really. So there's that. But the players within the system, considering the fact that none of the players or few of the players seem perfect fits for it, it tells you a lot more about the players. You know what I mean? So you would say, all right, the Belieber is his preferred choice for that defensive role in the midfield or the all action role. We don't have a player with that profile, so he plays Ugarte. it tells you a lot about his tactical approach to that, because he can, he could put Mainu in. There's no reason not to put Mainu in. There's no reason to, not put Ahmad at right wing back, even though he's not been playing really well there. There's certain dynamics within the defense that you can pick as well. Those, even though they're within the system and they are individual player choices, it does still tell us a lot about how ambitious he's going to be, right?
I don't know. I just realised, caught myself. I was watching you two talking, and then I caught myself doing the old Macaulay Culkin watching you, because as Mike was going through that, I don't think he'll change the goalkeeper, because I don't think he'll put Senna Lomans in for Liverpool. So if he changes the goalkeeper for these 2 games, you've then got an international break, and then you've got Liverpool. So he would then put Bayindir in for Liverpool, having not played for 2 games and a window. So, and when I've not picked up on that Lomans was a choice of the Brendan Rodgers had a transfer committee at Liverpool, didn't he? But the board have chosen him. But having said that, a lot of the transfer leaks towards the end of the window proved to be correct, where players were going on loan and where they ended up going and who was leaving. They all ended up to be right. So perhaps that one is correct. If that is the case, then I would say that's probably strike one, that there's maybe an opinion changing towards this coach if they're signing players that he doesn't want. Having said that, again, we moved on to the Ugarte Mainu. It's a no-brainer in my opinion. So I think Ugarte will start.
Yeah. It's a no-brainer, so we'll go with it.
It's a no-brainer that Mainu plays, but Ugarte will start.
Sorry.
No, you're
just
all right,
saying,
mate.
all the noise that's been around Mainu again is renewed this week. That's saying that he's got a personal coach. He's had a personal coaching over the international break. That that he's been dedicated to doing the things. I just think that the solution's fairly obvious, right? If you're Ruben Amorim, in multiple different ways to destroy all of this narrative, is just to ask Mainu to do a few things that are out of his comfort zone, and then you've got the opportunity to. If he fails, then you've got the opportunity to. But I don't see how you can't fail more than what Ugarte. It can't be worse than Ugarte. It might have a few defensive switch-offs, but you're still going to have a player who brings so much more to the game. I don't know. Is it that too simplistic when you're looking at a manager? Like we say, he's set in his ways. Why not just ask the player to go, all right, we all know you're not. Preferably, I'd want you to be doing what Bruno's doing. For some reason, we want Bruno there instead of somewhere else. But that's what we prefer. We don't have it now, but you're still the better option of what's left. So this is the thing I'm going to ask you to do, and that way you get the fans on side, you get a better player in your team, and you get the player on side as well. Is that too simple?
The point for me there, again, the guys I was with at the weekend, we don't have that many games this season. So when is Mainu going to play? When is he going to get the minutes? I don't see where he's going to play. And I'll keep making the same point, but the manager is telling you he doesn't rate the kid. So if that's me, there's only 2 things that can happen for this to change, right? Mega money move for Bruno to Saudi happens in January, and then it's, well, live by the sword, die by the sword. Ruben, you said that he was going to play the Bruno role, so put him in, and he does. Or, and I really don't want this to happen, Mainu goes on loan somewhere else. Mainu, we were talking about this in the car. Mainu would be one of the best central midfield, box to box central midfielders in pretty much any team in the country, in my opinion. Yeah. So I know we keep talking about Mainu, but this issue is not going to go away until we either get a definitive he is not going to play for me from the manager, which again I think that would be strike 2 for him, because I think there's such a groundswell of support to not continue to offload academy players, and the club has to learn. With Scott McTominay, obviously plays for Scotland. I love him 2 bits. I was devastated when Scott McTominay left Manchester United, because look at what we need now. We need a physical, mobile, box-to-box midfielder who can play in there. And we sold him, and he's just finished 18th in the Ballon d'Or. So that is damning. A top club should not operate the way we operate with our top young players. And Mainoo's the next one, and I can see history repeating itself.
Yeah. Mainoo's got the potential to finish in that kind of ranking as well. But I'm high on Mainoo. I would say this as well, just to close off before the McTominay thing. Congratulations to Scott. Well deserved, incredible season and year that he's had. I'm usually the stat here. If anyone's watching or listening to this, I can't. It was the last. Is the last academy product to rank so high in the Ballon d'Or? Is it going to be David Beckham? Maybe Paul Scholes later in the decade? I don't think he came. I don't think Scholes ranked that highly in the 2000s. So it might be the highest ranking academy product at United in the Ballon d'Or ranking since Beckham finished. Was it second or third to around 2000? Or Beckham himself. Beckham himself might have been a bit lower. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, well done to Scott and thoroughly deserved. He was robbed. Should have won it. Although I would say, if there's one thing that I enjoy, a little bit of Schadenfreude, is that everyone's like, "Oh my god, like he's biased against my player that I liked just because they, you know what I mean, because they play for the club that they like, and there are 2 players at one club and one set of supporters who are really upset that their players didn't get 1 and 2, which is I'm not going to name them. I think you all know what I'm talking about. But it's been enjoyable to see that going on socials this week. Anyway, hopefully it's not going to be us crying about something in the weekend. Brentford against Manchester United on Saturday. That's our preview of it. We'll be back for the review next week. Have a great week, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the podcast, if you can give it a like, give it a share on the platform you listen on. If you can give us a review on the platform you listen on as well, would really appreciate that. Have a great week, guys.